Hi everyone, and welcome to the U.S. History Unit 7 mod test recording. In this recording, I'm going to be reading the questions on the Unit 7 test. I'm also going to be reading the answer options to you. On this test, just a reminder before you get started, you're going to want to click Save as you go, and you're also going to want to click Submit at the end to make sure that this gets to your instructor through the gradebook. Just another reminder for you, as you're taking the test, please make sure that you are sitting down and taking this at one time. You don't want to open up the test and begin and exit it, because that will cause a submission error. So please make sure if you're starting the test that you have enough time to complete it, save as you go. I always recommend also recording your answers on paper just in case you need to give it a second attempt. That way you'll know what you answered the first time around, and you can improve upon your questions on your second attempt. Let's get started. Question 1 says, which was not a factor that encouraged settlement of the West in the late 1800s? Free or cheap land, discoveries of gold, silver, and copper, or peace with Native Americans? Number 2, why were many people willing to endure the hardships of settling in the far West? Was it the beauty of the terrain, the economic opportunities to be found, or was it the fact that others had already done it? Number 3, why was it difficult for farmers and cattlemen to get along? Farmers wanted to protect their crops, but cattlemen needed the land for grazing. Cattlemen drove their herds through farmland but objected to paying the high tariffs for doing so, or farmers preferred to raise their own cattle. Question 4, what did miners, cowboys, and railroad workers in the late 1800s have in common? All were very well paid for their work, all hoped to move Native Americans to Canada, or all faced danger and hardships. Number 5, how did railroads affect Western settlement in the 1800s? Railroads provided construction jobs, connected markets throughout the nation, and sold and advertised land in the West. The second option, railroads were the only way for settlers to get to the West Coast, where they started farms. Or the last option, railroads were responsible for the discovery of minerals that brought settlers west. Number 6, how did Western settlement affect Native Americans? Native Americans supported Western settlement because it brought money they needed. Western settlement continued to force Native Americans from their lands. Or the last option, Western settlers turned to Native Americans because the settlers appreciated their knowledge of the land. Number 7, what was the purpose of the Dawes Act? To contribute to the well-being of Native Americans, to offer government resources to Native Americans, or to reduce Indian tribal lands and power by forcing them to live like white people on separate family plots instead of as a tribe. Number 8 is a question that goes along with the map. It says, which of the answer choices correctly identifies the major mining, ranching, farming regions of the West in the late 1800s? So you're going to be taking a look at the key here with A, B, and C shown. Each letter has a color related to it that's resembled on the map. So A is the purple dotted area, B this green area here and over here in California, and C is the light or the darker tan color on the map. Number 9, what was a common result of the rush to seek Western land, timber, gold, and oil? All had a negative environmental impact, all were abundant renewable resources, or all were carefully regulated. Number 10, what were two techniques entrepreneurs used to create monopolies? Horizontal and vertical integration, stock options and investment bonds, trusts, and treaties. Number 11, how did a trust allow John D. Rockefeller to create a monopoly over the American oil industry? A single board of directors could control several oil-related companies. It built confidence in the reliability of the heads of oil companies, or it provided securities and stock options that no other organizations had. Number 12, what important influence did 19th century railroads have on what is today's corporate America? Railroads were the first to raise funds by issuing stocks and bonds. Railroads created an awareness of the importance of transportation, or railroads brought the need for effective scheduling to the forefront. Number 13, which inventor is not correctly paralleled with his invention? George Westinghouse and the alternating current, Alexander Graham Bell and the telegraph, or Nikola Tesla and the generator. 14, how did investment banker John Pierpont Morgan help corporations grow in the late 1800s? He oversaw the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. He invested in a process for manufacturing steel that was used in companies across the nation, or he used money from his bank to invest in the purchase of corporate stocks and bonds. Number 15, which were business practices employed by the leaders of industry, like Rockefeller and Carnegie in the late 1800s? Was it building monopolies and forming trusts, developing international cartels and lowering tariffs, or standardizing production and regenerating crafts? Number 16, what was the purpose of the Interstate Commerce Act? Was it to control trade between the states and ensure fairness, to provide states with an agency to mediate disputes, or to ensure fairness by regulating railroad rates across the nation? What was the purpose of the Sherman Antitrust Act? To develop another revenue source for the federal government, to promote trade with foreign countries and develop overseas markets, or to eliminate any agreement or contract that restrained trade? Number 18, how did companies respond to government efforts to regulate business? They attempted to follow the rules yet continue to make profits. They looked for and used loopholes in the laws. They formed a cartel and refused to allow the regulations. Number 19, what was the basic message of Andrew Carnegie's Gospel of Wealth? The Bible describes how money should be used. Anyone can become a magnate of industry by using the right practices, or it is the duty of the rich to use their wealth for the common good. What is laissez-faire economics for number 20? Is it the philosophy of government control and regulation, the interest in government support of business, or the last option, the idea that business operates best without regulation? Number 21, which was not a hazard faced by industrial workers in the late 1800s, which was not a hazard? Long work hours, overheated work areas, high unemployment. Number 22, which of the following was not an attempt to form a union and organize workers in the late 1800s? The American Federation of Labor, the American Railway Union, or the Haymarket Organization of Workers? Number 23, what did the federal government do in response to union-led strikes? They acted quickly to end strikes using both courts and federal troops. They remained impartial so the dispute could be settled by labor and management. Or the last option, they attempted to mediate the issues so that both sides could be heard. Number 24, many Jewish immigrants settled in New York City, while most Chinese settled in California and Scandinavians settled in the Midwest. What is one reason for these patterns of settlement? Was it because immigrants wanted to be with others from their native country? Immigrants wanted to be in the closest location to their native country? Or the last option, immigrants faced restrictions on which regions were open to them? Number 25, the first wave of immigrants to the United States was largely from Northern and Central Europe. Where did most of the second wave of immigrants come from? Was it Asia and Latin America, Southern Europe and South Asia, or Southern and Eastern Europe? Number 26, why was immigration through Angel Island more difficult and less efficient than immigration through Ellis Island? Angel Island was farther from the mainland, so it was harder to find workers to process immigrants. Asians immigrated through Angel Island and there was more prejudice against them, or Ellis Island received more funding and could operate more efficiently. Number 27, immigrants arrive in American cities poor and frightened. They are helped to find jobs or housing. These newcomers should show their gratitude at voting time. This is a quote from the time period that we are studying. What kind of person is the quote most likely to come from? A religious leader, a factory owner, or a political party boss? And number 28, which term describes Americans who disliked and did not trust immigrants? Nativists, anarchists, or industrialists? Questions 29 and 30 are short answer questions on your test. They will be at the very end of your test, and you can answer these questions by putting your responses in the space available under the question. Question number 29 will give you the big idea for Unit 7. It says the post-Civil War America, or post-Civil War America, saw huge growth in Western expansion, technology, and business. The modern era has now begun. In this question, it's going to ask you to identify and describe one strong example of a growth in the area of business in post-Civil War America. Be sure to make sure that you give page references for the information that you use from your course resources only. You should not be going outside of your course resources to answer this question. You should only be using the textbook and the course slides. All responses should be in complete sentences. Answer the following question in the space below that is provided. You will see a space right around here on your test. I'm not showing it on this recording because it didn't appear on the test correctly, but that will be corrected by the time you get into the test. That question, number 29, is worth 10 points. Number 30 is about gratitude, and gratitude is the character trait from our unit. Says, in this unit we have seen many examples of individuals showing gratitude. Remember, gratitude can be observed in a person who recognizes and shows appreciation for his or her opportunities and for others. So for this question, for question 30, you're going to be doing one of the following. You're either going to give an example of gratitude from the late 1800s and explain how it was showing gratitude and who was showing gratitude in that situation, how it was being shown. That's going to be worth 5 points. If you don't want to give an example from Unit 7, you could describe a time when you have shown gratitude personally. If you don't have a personal example, you can give one from your community. It could be from politics, education, business, or maybe even your local community. The rubric for both of these questions is provided below. Remember, as always, please make sure when you get to the end of your test that you click Save again, as you should be as you go through, and then click Submit for grading. Good luck on your test.